and hoodies. They're not just comfortable, they're conversation starters. Need to keep hydrated during those long listen sessions? Get your hands on our durable water bottles. And now introducing our latest additions, a hand-picked selection of intriguing books that will keep your mind buzzing. GroundZeroMerch.com. Support Ground Zero and everything we do.
My Patriot Supply is America's leading emergency preparedness company and believe it's every person's patriotic duty to achieve true freedom from our world's increasingly unreliable and fragile systems. The best way to do this is to invest in your personal liberty, because you can't rely on governments or corporations for the basics of life. Act now and secure at least a 4-week emergency food kit full of tasty meals that provide 2,000 calories a day. They have dozens of emergency food storage kits to choose from, along with a variety of survival products. Despite these difficult times, My Patriot Supply has kept their commitment to you with well-stocked emergency supplies. They will deliver them quickly and discreetly with friendly 24/7 customer service. Stay alert and prepared, friends. Let everyone else take tomorrow for granted. Go to preparewithgroundzero.com. That's preparewithgroundzero.com.
Do you want to know why your inalienable rights are so vital in these uncertain times? Check out the Unsuppressed podcast on aftermath.media. Join Wes, Bill, Patrick, and Avery as they discuss the fundamentals of urban and wilderness survival, disaster preparedness, gear discussions, and so much more. Check it out with your premium Aftermath subscription, and make sure you stay unsuppressed.
If you're looking for a thought-provoking multimedia platform about current events, trending news, pop culture, conspiracies, and the paranormal, you need to sign up for Ground Zero's exclusive digital playground, aftermath.media. Their website includes years of archived shows and podcasts from Ground Zero with Clyde Lewis and the Secret Teachings with Ryan Gable. You'll have access to over 200 documentaries and movies from some of the greatest minds in the last 50 years in their video section. In addition, you can watch live video stream of Ground Zero. Also, there's monthly chats with Clyde along with intriguing and educational webinars. Each subscription includes tech support, RSS feeds, a chat room, and social media channel. Be sure to check out their yearly specials for basic and premium memberships. So sign up today at aftermath.media. That's aftermath.media.
Gentlemen, I've brought you here to discuss the Eastwood Problem. It may be necessary to penetrate the Vinny Eastwood Show. The Vinny Eastwood Show. Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, I've been working on a new Vinny scene. I think that might be the kind of penetration we need.
The Vinny Eastwood Show. Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live on Ground Zero Radio. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. My fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes.
And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to yet another exciting episode of the Vinny Eastwood Show, broadcasting right here on Ground Zero .radio. Oh my goodness, there's a little backstory here. We had my computer blow up, right? And that with the computer went the connection to the network, and the network was unable to help me figure out some stuff. And then this morning I had a little bing, because the network and Barack from NZ Freedom Hub Radio and radio.co were all trying to help me. And I just figured it out, thanks to their help, how to get back broadcasting on groundzero.radio. So it's good to be back. It's been been like a month out of the live broadcast on the network. So yeah, guys, sorry about that. That was totally my bad. Now, today, the subject that we're going to be talking about is the language of nerds, professionals, and cult indoctrination. The Vinny Eastwood Show is a listener-supported broadcast, has been going since about 2008, thereabouts, and during that time we have given people who need attention the platform so that they can relay their ideas and help you to understand how the world is actually working. Now, I've been sent a video by a number of people recently, a woman named Janine something from the family of something. Anyway, what she's done, and I'd like to applaud her for this, but I'll get into my criticism in just a moment, is declare that she's now running all the corporations of New Zealand and that they're all operating under fraud and that they no longer have any legitimacy, and now they have to do what she tells them to do, which is to let people off of their taxes, their rates, speeding fines where you haven't actually crashed into anybody or damaged anything, you know, stuff like that. The kind of thing you want to hear, the kind of thing you want done. And I haven't had a chance to interview her about it yet, but I have just a few questions regarding the enforcement of this. First of all, how many New Zealand police officers have signed up to enforce this, to arrest the government employees and things of that nature who are not complying with this proclamation? You got any police on side, do you? What about the military? Okay, so who have you got working in the courts that supports this and stuff like that? And how are you going to enforce this? In their courts or in your own? And again, not having anybody to actually boots on the ground, go and arrest these people and charge them and things of that nature. You see, it's the danger of uncritical positive thought, right? The corruption in New Zealand is such that if you were to kick over any rock in any department, look in any direction at the government involvement and day-to-day operations, you would learn that they are inherently corrupt, right? We're not talking about every single person who works for them is like an evil, overlord, blah, blah, blah. No, you've got surface-level employees who don't know what they're a part of. And this is what today's show is about, the language of nerds and professionals and cult indoctrination. So my belief is that the world has been destroyed by nerds and professionals for the same reason. They make things appear more complicated than they actually are by using specific words and language that you might not understand. And of course this applies to legal fiction and context within the courts, but we'll get to that momentarily. And so you think that because of what they've told you, in the language that they've told you that you don't understand, that what they are talking about and what they do for a living must be so complex and so difficult that you'd never be able to learn it and you'd never be able to do it for yourself, and so therefore you can just relieve yourself of the stress of having to do all those things and let them just do it for you at an exorbitant rate. There was this woman, I think she was a billionaire by the time she's in her mid-20s or something like that. Freaking amazing. And she said that what we do is we create a moat around our professions by using all this language so that you don't understand what we're talking about and then you defer to our expertise. So this works in the same in virtually any industry because as I'll explain, the cult indoctrination techniques are present there. I've just been working on a film set over the weekend, so I did 3 18-hour days in a row. So you'll forgive me if I'm not quite so with it today. So, first of all, how do you indoctrinate somebody into a cult of nerdiness and professionalism? Well, usually you're going to have to be isolated. All right, if you're going to a workplace and your family and your friends aren't there to watch your back and say, oh, that doesn't seem right, and stuff like that. That's step one. Usually with sleep deprivation as well, you're going to have to get there real early. You're not going to have a good night's sleep the night before. When you are there, there's going to be a central authority that from which all of you have to obey their edicts. There will be a central doctrine by which, if you question said doctrine, other people are supposed to henpeck you and tell you, oh, you're not allowed to do that, that's a bad thing, and they might ostracize you from the cult, get out of the workplace, you're not the right fit. All right, and then of course you got nutritional deprivation. There won't be terribly healthy food around, and the repetition of meaningless, pointless tasks over and over again. The lighting, right? Fluorescent lighting usually. In the schools and most office buildings and things of that nature that we have. And, of course, the most important thing is trauma. Are you becoming exhausted? Are you becoming overwhelmed? Are you not being seen to? Is somebody not coming over and asking you, are you okay? Would you like this or would you like that? And stuff like that, right? So what this does to the brain is it basically invokes one of your fight and flight responses. There's 5 of them. Fight, flight, there is freeze, submit, and attach. So if you've got a operation there and you want people to do what you tell them, when you tell them, and so on and so forth, they are going to need to have a prize dangled in front of them. And you want the prize, don't you? Okay, sign on the dotted line here. And once you've got them signed on the dotted line, then you've got some very important hooks into them in order to guilt trip them into not leaving the cult and, of course, doing the cult's bidding. This is how all these organizations work. They're all hierarchical in their nature. And so as an anarchist, this is somebody against having rulers and controllers, and instead I prefer taking personal responsibility. All right? Everything I do, everything I say, I am personally responsible for it. Can't blame anyone else. Can't punish anybody else for my mistakes, my wrongdoings, and things of that nature. Government is the direct opposite, coming from the Latin governe, meaning to control, and mente, meaning the mind. So, if we're engaged in any kind of mind control, I don't like that very much. It sort of rubs me the wrong way. Hierarchies and all of that kind of stuff. I can't work for anybody. I will work with them, provided I'm treated with dignity and respect, as long as those people that I'm working with are also being personally responsible and they're not insulting me or stealing my stuff or breaking it, or threatening me, or hurting me, that kind of thing, then I can work with you. But if you do any of those things in the cult indoctrination process, I immediately don't like it, because I recognize what it is that I'm dealing with, and it's simply not good enough for me, I'm afraid. That's why it's so difficult to control people that are anarchistic in nature, because they don't want to be controlled. They want to cooperate, you see? And if cooperation is not something that's on the table, you'll get triggered, or you'll be enraged, or something of that nature. So we're talking about a very interesting dynamic that is affecting most people who have any kind of job in any kind of workplace or education system, for that matter. This is what happens to children as well. Now, what these techniques do is they affect the neural pathways of the brain. You would normally think about something, then you would feel it, and then you'd react to it. After these indoctrination techniques are complete, your brain doesn't work that way anymore. You immediately see things and then react to them. Okay, this is how psychopathy works. This is how narcissism works. And if you run your organizations, quote unquote, correctly, this is what will happen to the people that are in your charge. They will develop a personality disorder of some description, usually through the trauma that you're putting them through in the case of their job. Even though you're paying them, they're still going through all of these processes which corrupt their brain's ability to think independently and freely. Now, if you have an organization like that, how much do you think you will be losing out on without people's thoughts and cooperative capacities to enhance your operation? You see, this is the important distinction between having a organization that is hierarchical in nature versus having one that is cooperative in nature. The cooperative organizations, everybody feels free to contribute their ideas, and because you've got more minds working on the same problem, you're able to come up with solutions that the person who would, quote unquote, be in control, or maybe the coordinator of the group with regard to anarchanism, is that you don't know what you don't know. And people contributing their ideas helps you to see things from various different angles. It helps to have more brain cells looking at and solving the problems that lay before us. This is why nerds and professionals have destroyed the world, because it means that we can't have those broader discussions because of the deliberate language barrier that they've put in place so that they can protect and serve their cult status. All right? You see this with people who've been in the military. You get two ex-military guys, and as soon as they find out that they both used to be in the same cult, they're now suddenly brothers, even though they've only just met and never saw each other before a day in their life. Okay? Same with many other industries. There's a quote-unquote camaraderie, whereas I think it's more closer to co-traumatizing, right? They've been traumatized through the course of doing their job, training for it, and executing that job, that now they believe that they are better. This is one of the other things that happens about cults, is that they believe that they're special, that they're different, that they have their own clique that they're part of, whereas an anarchist thinks of the nature of freely bouncing around and the will of the universe, being involved with this group and that group and that group, never actually being, quote-unquote, a part of the cult, but certainly being able to contribute to the operations of any particular organization without fear, without favor, right? So when you have that, you've got a certain mentality, the cult-like mentality. They'll be sitting there talking about this, that, and the other, and you won't know what they're saying. No, you won't, because their language is too technical. So simplicity is what you're really wanting to be looking for. If you use all these technical terms and what have you, they're just going to wash over most people, and they're going to get bored, and they're just kind of going to sit out. Whereas if you're using terms that everybody fully understands and they can comprehend its meaning, by speaking actual plain English, then those cult indoctrination techniques start to wane, and you start to wonder why you were using all those terms and all those language techniques and so on and so forth in the first place, because all it actually does is confuse people and prevent the work from getting done faster, because people have to catch up to the terms and so on and so forth. Now, we talk about trauma as if trauma is a ubiquitous thing. And I think to a large degree it is. I doubt anybody who is listening to this show or shows on the Ground Zero Radio network have come here without trauma being one of the motivating factors. Okay, I think that's fair to say. Sing out in the chat rooms if you agree with me that basically, you can't become a conspiracy theorist without being traumatized by the conspiracy itself. Right? It seems perfectly logical to me, and I've seen too many of us think that because we've been traumatized by a system or whatever, that makes us lesser, or that makes us angry and feel betrayed and what have you. And these are natural emotions, and they are, in my opinion, perfectly justified. Right? You are absolutely justified to be angry for being excluded, for being talked down to, for being assaulted, or for being traumatized in any of the myriad ways that human beings can be vicious to each other. If you're angry with that, you are 100% justified. Okay? And you are therefore entitled to use any force that is necessary to get those who are deliberately traumatizing you to stop doing what they're doing. Now, usually, let's say you've got a person who is threatening or being violent or threatening to steal or break into a place or something of that nature. That threat alone is a violation of your rights. Okay, people don't know what a right is, so anything that you have that doesn't belong to somebody else, you have a feeling of safety, right? And if somebody threatens you, that feeling of safety is taken from you, and they don't have control over that. So therefore, if they're threatening you, that's wrong. And you should be able to take force into account. Now, force comes in many forms. It comes from just talking to somebody, telling them, I don't like that, and all the way down the other end of the spectrum into the use of deadly force, if you need to use that to get somebody to stop. And it's usually on a scale. So if somebody insults you or threatens you or something like that, you tell them, stop that, and I'll defend myself, etc. Or up to the point of they're actually trying to murder you, and you have to kill them in order to get them to stop, because they won't stop with words. They won't stop with a little bit of physical force. They will just try as hard as they can to murder you, and you have every right to protect yourself. Now, this occurs, of course, not only in the physical realm, but in the mental and social realms as well. There isn't a justification to tell people that they cannot defend themselves or stick up for themselves or anything like that if they're being trespassed upon. Now, going back to this lady, Janine, incidentally my eldest sister's name, she's quite accurately pointed out the frauds within the New Zealand system and the various government departments and heads of those departments that are currently, objectively speaking, and I agree with her on this, committing fraud upon mankind. All right? Or in this case, particularly New Zealand. But we should also become aware of what the other points that Janine stated, is that New Zealand isn't just New Zealand. There's other corporations from other nations and shareholders and things of that nature operating inside this country, running its corporations and heads of departments and things of that nature. And, of course, there's a shockingly large amount of people who weren't born here who currently work for government organizations. All right. If your government, the thing that runs your country and your people, is almost exclusively, well, not exclusively, but largely populated by people who are fresh immigrants and things of that nature, doesn't that strike you as a little odd? Right? There's not enough New Zealanders who are born in New Zealand that want to work for the New Zealand government, and only it seems that way a lot of time. Whenever I've called up government departments, I will not hear a New Zealand accent on the other end of the line. Why is this? Well, number one, it's not necessarily a bad thing to have people with skills and talents come to your country and operate things that the people of your country are either too lazy or too effing stupid to do. Okay? Nothing wrong with that. Thank you. Come on in. However, if you're talking about mass immigration, what do we have? Like nearly 5 million people or something like that, and we're having quote unquote like over 100,000 people coming into practically Auckland alone, maybe a few distributed throughout the rest of the country, but Auckland, where I live, has become so saturated with fresh immigrants that it is absolutely noticeable. You see hijabs everywhere you go. You're seeing people from other nations driving around and things like that. All the call centers, all the people that are at the retail shops and things like that. It's a massive shift from what New Zealand looked like, say, 20 or 30 years ago. And this is not by accident. Okay, the Dr. David Day, who David Icke referred to in his talks when he was here in, I think, 2014, I believe it was, he was talking about how they would flood the West with immigrants. And that would dilute down the local social cohesiveness. So let's say theoretically on strand A, you have New Zealanders, you have everybody who was born here, and you have them all speaking the exact same language, you have them all growing up in the exact same culture, and you have a certain social cohesion, so that when elections or national crises or something of that nature that are of a national interest come to the fore, New Zealanders have a particular culture where they will act accordingly in the way that New Zealanders do, primarily with a lack of enthusiasm. And then when you have, on the other hand, people who haven't grown up here, who don't speak the language as a first language, don't have the local New Zealand culture distilled in them, which is, of course, beer and sport, then they will react differently to New Zealanders when it comes to issues of national importance. Secondarily, let's say national importance would be an election. And if you are speaking in English only, are trying to appeal to New Zealanders, and you realize that only about maybe 20% of the population speak English as a first language or something like that, and I'm making that stat up, by the way, just to give a point here, maybe that's a bit of a logical fallacy. I apologize, I retract that. A significant percentage of the population don't speak English as a first language, or do not watch the local news, or even independent news sites and things of that nature. It becomes significantly more difficult for anybody who is a New Zealander, and only a New Zealander, and is looking out for New Zealanders and only New Zealand, to actually be heard and understood by enough people to develop a movement that would actually change New Zealand for the better. Okay, this is part of the reason why you have that deliberate infiltration into New Zealand. Now, New Zealand government is doing this because the New Zealand government is a corporation called the Queen and Right of New Zealand. You can look it up on the National Securities Securities and Exchange Commission website in the United States there. If that is the case, then we have grand difficulties ahead of us, because we don't have the ability to see a cohesive New Zealand with this massive influx of immigrants. So that's not that bad a thing because people can be reasoned with, people can be bargained with. And it's tough being an immigrant in New Zealand. I've spoken to a lot of them and my friends from South Africa and various other nations about how the New Zealand Immigration Department works, about the aura of threat that is placed over you as an immigrant to this country. That is traumatizing. What does that mean? It means that they're being cult indoctrinated in this country too. So you've got everybody's being traumatized. New Zealanders and non-New Zealanders alike. We're all living together and we're all being traumatized in these various different ways, and we're all becoming part of a cult. Isn't that beautiful? It works any way you slice it. And then, of course, when you have most countries throughout history who've had massive influxes of immigrants, you have huge amounts of racism that starts happening, hate crimes and so on and so forth. I recall back in, I think it might have been either 2008 or 2014 election, something around these. Winston Peters, I was about to say the late Winston Peters, but he's not dead yet, said that New Zealand was taking 50,000 immigrants a year. Okay, it's now about 100,000 plus immigrants a year, by the way, nowadays. But he said that by comparison, Finland, which has 14 million people, that was maybe more than three times the population of New Zealand at the time, if I remember correctly, has 500 immigrants a year. Why? Assimilation. If people come to a country from a different culture and there is practically nobody of that different culture there, then they are forced to adopt the local culture. Okay? People who come to Finland become Finnish, right? Whereas people who come to New Zealand, everywhere you drive, there are countries' flags outside people's homes or hanging off their cars or something of that nature, and you see almost by comparison none waving a New Zealand flag. All right, maybe you'll see a United Tribes flag or something like that, or maybe you will see a New Zealand flag occasionally. But other than that, you're seeing lots of people from the Pacific Islands and from South Africa or from India or something like that. You'll see their flags and Ukrainian flags and Israeli flags and things like that. I see them far more often than I see the actual national flag of New Zealand. What does this mean? It means we're all part of different cults and we're all fighting with each other because we don't have the ability to communicate and stay on the same page. This is the whole reason why they do it. A country that is together in unity as one will be able to stand against overarching threats such as massive corporate takeovers by ruthless criminal sociopathic scumbaggery. Okay? And so we can argue about all of these things after we've gotten rid of the initial threat, preferably, right? If everybody's a slave, if everybody's paying taxes for which there's no actual legal basis for which those taxes aren't tracked, we don't know where our tax money's going, if the country is hundreds of billions of dollars in debt, if the court system is corrupt and the medical system is corrupt, so on and so forth, whatever institutional hierarchy that you can see in this country is operating under a corrupt regime with these cult indoctrination techniques that I mentioned earlier, there's going to be very little possibility for social cohesiveness to mobilize and defeat such a system. And that's the whole idea. You can't do anything. Now, despite that fact, and it is a fact, it's not my opinion, it's a fact. If you're operating into a completely uncohesive society with an overarching tyrannical menace, you're not going to be able to defeat it. You're not going to be able to. Why? Because for the last couple of generations, they've had control of your schooling system, your education system. So anybody who would actually want freedom or decency or prosperity, or anybody who has any honor or valor, will have that stuff stripped from them. They'll be dumbed down and demoralized. As Yuri Bezmenov said, that this was the communist plan all along, to indoctrinate your children into believing in the communist ideals, to destroy their moral backbone, okay, as he calls demoralization. And once the process of demoralization is complete, you could have the best scientific argument in the world to prove that black is black, that white is white, that water is wet, and they would not believe it because they haven't got the moral backbone to see truth at all. Thus, the process of demoralization is complete. And, there's a more important point here, irreversible. So watch out for all of these nerds and professionals and cults, and watch out for all these words that they might be using. Just to let your little brain, maybe perhaps if you're listening to this show, you've got a much larger brain than the rest of the general population, let's be honest. But your little brain will just go ping, 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 and send off little warning signs so that you don't actually wind up buying into and getting made subservient to this systematic structure of scumbaggery that has been built up around you, that currently wraps its tentacles around you, your heart, your mind, your gut, your brain, your soul. It wraps you up totally, completely, and squeezes you until the blood comes out and drips into the tax fountain. Right? It's a terrible situation, and I understand why some people are committing suicide at this point. Okay? It is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Almost everybody I know either knows somebody who's close to them that has committed suicide, or knows somebody who has, known somebody. It's freaking everywhere, all right? So this is what happens in a society that's been completely cult indoctrinated and deprived of their purpose. As soon as they realize that the cult is a cult, and they may not even realize that, they might just realize that they don't like it anymore, they will lose all their friends. They will lose all their support networks. They'll probably lose their jobs. They'll probably lose their homes, and so on and so forth. All the things that they've been working towards for their entire meager life to survive, to actually have a place that is theirs, that they can feel happy in, that they can do things with and be free and what have you. And they suddenly realize that none of that was true. It's all gone. And it ain't coming back. Then they kill themselves. Because somebody like me, or somebody like you, didn't know what they were going through. And they didn't reach out to ask for help to the people that they knew in their lives who might actually be able to help them. Because when you're in that zone, you don't trust anybody anymore. You have this poor me, and you repeat to yourself these lies. Nobody's going to help me. Nobody can help me, or so on and so forth. And you get yourself into a spin. And the spin just gets darker and darker and spirals lower and lower until you feel like there's no hope. There's no reason to live anymore, and you kill yourself. What happens directly after that to your family? All right, I heard somebody recently killed themselves, and they had a couple of kids and a partner and that kind of thing. The pain that causes the people very much closest to them, like sudden death of any kind, they died in a car accident, or they got a rubber bulleted in the head by a cop at the Wellington protest, whatever it is, that kills you all of a sudden. Everybody who experiences that sudden death is going to go through the grief process as a result of that. And the grief process is very hard, denial, anger, bargaining, reasoning, and not reasoning, depression. And later on, if you achieve that, and most don't, acceptance. So this is what happens when people are killing themselves left, right, and center in this country because of the horrible things that the cults and the nerds and the professionals are doing to them, are doing to their families. and the fact that we have got no social cohesiveness to be there for each other. This is what's happening, guys. These are the reasons why things are as messed up as they are. And I wish more people would be able to see this, but I know that the vast majority of people in this country, at least anyway, have an IQ of like maybe 96 or lower on average. Okay, that means what I've just explained to you, that you're intelligent enough to understand, they're actually physically incapable. They're intellectually incapable of understanding the mechanics and the ins and outs of it. They wouldn't have actually sat here and listened to me for nearly 40 minutes that it's taken me to explain the ins and outs of this dynamic. They would have interrupted me every 10 to 15 to 30 seconds or something like that, trying to argue with it before I've actually finished a point or given out any evidence. Why? Because they're too stupid. People are too stupid. It's just that simple. You can't expect a dog to understand the intricacies of physics. All right? You can't explain to him how to do Pythagoras' theorem because he's a dog. He doesn't actually possess the wherewithal to understand that stuff. You are wasting your time. You are spinning your wheels. And so you see lots of people out there, particularly in the truth movement, trying to explain these things to people who are so dumb that they can't actually physically understand it. And then who's the dumb one? Right? It's freaking unbelievable. And I'm not saying that I'm particularly bright. You know, I am, but there's people out there who are much smarter than me, much more skilled than me in many, many areas. But I'm at least smart enough to understand this dynamic and be able to explain it in a relatively compressed manner so that other people who are almost as smart or reasonably close to the intelligence level that I have can comprehend it too, without having to do 2,000 interviews in order to obtain that knowledge. Right? There's little bits, there's little nuggets from here, there, and everywhere from all the conversations that you have in your life that's allowed you to explain things in a very simple manner to other things, right? And I remember John Ansell, who's one of the best award-winning adsmen in this country's history. He was asked once, why do you always try to dumb things down, John? And he replied by saying, well, why are you always trying to complicate them up? All right? People are trying to make things too complex because they think that their intelligence gives them a leg up on other people, and that if they keep their intelligence superior by concealing information that might help to raise other people's intellect, that they benefit from that. And I got news for them. You don't benefit from that. Nobody actually really benefits from a dumb population. Now, notice I use the word really benefit because there are benefits to having a dumb population. They don't question your corruption, they don't stand up to it, they're too apathetic to do anything about it even if they did stand up to it, so on and so forth. So there are plenty of benefits to it because it means that you can treat anybody however you want and always perpetually get away from it and constantly profit from it and always be given more power as a result of a dumbed down population. But that doesn't actually really help because of what I call the unintended consequences. Layers upon layers of unintended consequence. Let's make the population dumb so they won't find out that we're screwing them all over. Okay, great. That's a very good idea, except what happens when you've got a dumb population? Oh, well, they can't perform basic tasks, so we'll have to take care of them. Okay, so that means that they won't be able to work and earn money to pay their taxes, and instead you'd have to use the taxes of other healthy workers in order to create centres or pay carers or something like that to take care of these people who are literally so frickin' retarded that you can't actually perform basic tasks in a first world society. All right? Unintended consequence. So on and so forth. And then you start to see the breakdown of all the successive things that actually make a society work, the economy, the infrastructure, the education system, so on and so forth, to the point where you become so difficult to reason with as the controller who's deliberately dumbed everybody down, that you can't even see how wrong you are. You can't even see the consequences of your actions doing all of this because you just believe your own BS. Okay, this is how controllers think. And I got some moron. I got some moron in the chat room trying to insult me, calling me a Freemason apologist. It's exactly what I'm talking about, guys. People who are actually too dumb to understand real information, to be able to reason or use words or something like that. You know, people with personality disorders that have been created by the cult indoctrination systems that we've all been gone through, that they now perceive everything as a threat, and without thinking or feeling whether or not it's actually true, they react to the threat and they go after them. Those poor people, they need some love. They need somebody to care about them, and they need somebody to hear them out and then correct them when they're wrong. And when they are being corrected and while they're wrong, after somebody's heard them out, they should at least have the common courtesy to shut up and listen. You ever notice that? You got people who are intelligent enough to work out some things that are wrong, but they think that because they've figured out one thing that's wrong, they don't need to learn about any of the other things because they're so focused. Right? There's inordinate amounts of information that are easily accessible, even now with the huge amount of censorship, that can help to raise people's consciousness level to a significant degree. But because they're so traumatized and so stupid, they won't want to look for that information. And even if the information was presented to them, they would typically ignore it. All right, this is what ignorance is about. We are heading towards doomsday here by our own volition. Apathy, ignorance, laziness, cowardice. These are the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It's not pestilence and war. Those are just symptoms of the problem. All those problems start within us. Our laziness, our cowardice, right? That's the thing that's working so well to make this world end. To make freedom just stop existing. And we're getting to a point of technological development now and global totalitarianism. I mean, people don't even know the technology that exists that can frickin' restrain them if it was chosen to be deployed. Do you know what scalar weapons are, bro? No? Okay, you know how everything's got a frequency, right? Everything in existence, but in particular the human brain, the human heart, they put out these particular frequencies. And those frequencies are modulated by whose heart it is, what their genetic makeup is, or whatever. And so scalar waves are capable of mimicking that particular frequency, and with a pulse, they can turn that frequency off. So let's say you wanted to take out Auckland City with the in the general surrounding area, but you didn't want to take out all the people. You just wanted to take out, say, the white people with blue eyes and blonde hair. Or you just wanted to take out the Pacific Islanders that were under 6 feet tall, or something like that. You can modulate a frequency so specific as to be able to take out exactly who you want. That's a scalar weapon, and there's no defense against it. You could be 5 miles underground in a deep underground military bunker, and the best it would buy you is a few extra seconds of flopping around on the ground while you death rattle and die. That technology exists, and it could be deployed at any freaking time. So people talking around, wanting to, just stop the freaking New World Order, just stand up to it, and they're like trying to expose people in the truth movement and stuff like that. You don't know what you're dealing with. You don't know the demonic nature of psychopathy. The reason why we tell stories about monsters and things of that nature, vampires, werewolves, whatever, these people were describing an ancient metaphor for psychopathy, for back in the day they used to be called demons as well. And nowadays, what we do is, ostensibly, you've got vampiric, werewolfic, demonic entities that are inhabiting human form. All right? And in the modern scientific understanding of this dynamic, we would call them psychopaths. Now, they're very, very different to you. They're very, very different to me. Because you and I are possessed by a thing called a conscience. Okay? Con meaning together, science meaning to know. What we all together know is wrong. Now, if you don't have one of those, on the other hand, what would you do with your time? They don't need to sleep very much, only between 2 and 4 hours a night. So that means that they've got between 20 and 22 hours a day of perpetual scumbaggery. And they need attention, sex, power, money. Need it. Like you and I need love. Like you and I need food and water. Maybe there's some argument there for breatharian, that kind of thing. And they have this scary thing that they can do. They will change their name. And you will notice, I'm sure some of you might have clicked to this already, but there's a lot of people in the truth movement itself who are often changing their names. Via deed poll or via their social accounts and things like that. Here's why. If you're a psychopath, and believe me when I tell you there's psychopaths in the truth movement, when you change your name, you alleviate and forgive yourself immediately for all actions you've taken under that previous moniker. Okay? If I change my name to Hadib, tomorrow, hey, Hadib Eastwood, when you were Vinny Eastwood, you did this, this, and this, and it was really bad and evil. I'll be like, no, I didn't. That wasn't me. And I'd actually believe it if I was a psychopath without possession of a full conscience. Now, the religious element towards this, in terms of demons, okay, how do you slay a demon? All right, same way you kill a vampire, right? They're allergic to the light. What does that mean? It means being exposed, okay? This is why we call it exposure on a camera. These creatures that we call psychopaths are deathly terrified of people knowing what they are and knowing who they are, because they know from experience that when people find out, it makes their operations compromised. This is what all criminals must understand. And I'm not giving anybody any advice here, but if you are engaged in criminal activity, your criminal activity will be running perfectly and easily until such a time as you draw suspicion to yourself. As soon as people are suspicious of you, that's when they will start questioning you. That's when they won't start believing your lies. That's when they'll point out your frauds. That's when they'll start talking to other people about you and what you've done to them. And then it will limit your victim pool to only those who have not been exposed to the information that exposes yourself. Okay? That's the reason why psychopaths will threaten you. And shut you down, destroy your businesses, and so on and so forth, in order to deprive you of the power that resources and a clear head grant you in terms of sharing information and exposing their sociopathic scumbaggery. Okay? And they're very, very good at it. And they'll try to divide you and things of that nature. Now, this is how religion works to a certain degree. So, if you are religious, religion comes from the Latin relegare, which means to relegate in English, which means to hold back. So, if you go around putting yourself in a box, as David Icke said, you're in a prison. You are holding back your own spirituality, your actual true connection to the Almighty, by following a religion. Any religion, generally speaking. Because all of those religions use those cult indoctrination techniques. Oh, I'm a Christian. Oh, I'm a Muslim. Oh, I'm a Hindu. Oh, I'm Sikh. Whatever. And I've got nothing against anybody from these religions per se, apart from the fact that they're part of a cult and they're happy about it. I don't like that. I don't like anybody who's happy to be part of a cult, who's happy to give up their God-given individuality in order to proper label on themselves, like Christian or Muslim or communist or Republican. All right? These are all cults, all of them. And religion's dangerous, yes, but government is the most dangerous cult of all. So once we've vanquished the concept that people can mind control you, can rape you, hurt you, threaten you, so on and so forth, government level, and not have any accountability for that scumbaggery, once we solve that problem, then I'm going to focus headlong on eradicating the last real major problem that humanity is dealing with, religion. The religious belief in government has to be first to go, and then the rest of you need to understand that there isn't some guy with a big beard or something of that nature out there. It is a holographic fractal that is being projected by collective consciousness, experiencing itself subjectively, that speaks to you through your fractal DNA pattern, through your hair, and the extension of the universe that allows you to download that information. Okay? Or, if you're too dumb, God. That's what it is. It is what it is. It does what it does. It has certain patterns and certain rules. It's omniscient. It's omnipresent. Okay? It knows all. It sees all, and it can do anything. And what religion seems to be adept at doing is making you think that it comes from one particular source, as opposed to being entrapped in all sources simultaneously. Okay? That's why they say God is in everything. This is what happens when you understand and you go beyond the religious mindset and you begin to understand the actual mechanics of how divinity works in reality. There's only two things you can guarantee about reality, is that it is what it is, and it isn't what it isn't. So if you know, and if you feel that things are going wrong, there's a good chance, a very good chance, that things are totally going wrong and that you really shouldn't be having to deal with that stuff. Okay? But I believe that you, yes, you, have the ability to come to these conclusions. That you have the ability to shirk off trauma. That you have the ability to adjust to the new reality, empower yourself, and realize that you are utterly capable of living free and responsible, healthy lives, even if there isn't something as oppressive as government to tell you what to do, or something as blind as religion to force you to live a life that isn't good and doesn't work through the infinite capacities of the God entity. You've got that ability. You were born with it. And people have been trying to indoctrinate you and lie to you and prevent you from recognizing that power that lurks within you and lurks within us all for quite some freaking time. So stop making excuses. Stop talking down to yourself, all right? You might want to do something, but then you reason with yourself. You reason yourself out of it. You're like, oh, I want to do this. Oh, but it'll never work because of this, that, and the other. Yes, it will work. If you try, if you do something, it increases the possibility that it's actually going to work. If you argue yourself out of it, oh, I'll never be able to interview David Icke. Have you sent him an email? Has he said no? Well, no, but I talked myself out of doing that to him. Then send him a frickin' email. Okay? Just do the one thing. That it says in the Bible that really is true. Ask and you shall receive. Just ask. Ask the universe. Ask yourself. Ask people. It doesn't matter what you're asking. If you don't ask, you don't get. The squeaky wheel gets the oil, ladies and gentlemen. So I hope this has been enlightening for you. And what's this Baden Hohapata mofo? I'm just gonna find it and delete this bit. You know, it's just like, look at these people. They really think that they deserve the attention. You know, that they've got the enlightenment, that they can talk down to me. It's like, hey, bro, how many people have you interviewed and given a platform to speak their piece in your life? None? Oh, okay. Shush. Just shush. The adults are talking. Okay? You don't know who you're talking to. You don't know what you're talking about. What I would advise you to do is use your ears, not your mouth. Use your mind, not your keyboard. I'm not interested. Because you're not interesting. Okay? Wake up. Realize that you're a cult member. Realize that you're stupid. And then try to change that fact. Alright? I'm just trying to help. You're a stupid cult member. Stop doing it. And your own actions will change that reality. Hey, I used to be a stupid cult member. Vinny Eastwood told me so. And so I stopped being stupid and I stopped being cult-like. And now I'm actually reasonably bright and independent and personally responsible for the things that I do and say. You're welcome. Okay? You're absolutely effing welcome. I mean, the amount of frustration that I have to deal with people who don't know Jack, haven't done Jack, and are never going to do Jack because they're just that freaking foolish is unfreaking believable to me. You know, that there's still this many worthless, scum-sucking, traitorous, abusive, narcissistic pieces of crap that are in the truth movement and think that they're doing good with their life. It's just, you gotta laugh at him, man. You gotta laugh at him. Otherwise, you'll cry. So anyway, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for listening to the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. Been helping out people since 2008. The conspiracy therapist, Vinny Eastwood. If you want to support me, and guys, I'm going to have a real trouble paying the rent this week. Actually, I mean, a lot of costs and things like that. I've had to support my ex-partner and my baby boy and all of this other kind of stuff. So I'm in a real bad way right now, whilst I'm trying to be responsible and help out other people with their problems. So if you could be so kind as to help me, I'm so grateful that it's unfreaking believable. The people who give me super chats on the YouTube stream, the people who support me through Patreon, who give me a couple of dollars a month, the people who have those automatic payments coming into the Kiwi Bank account there. This is all on screen for you if you're watching it on YouTube. Twitch and Facebook is where we go live every New Zealand Monday at 10 a.m. That's just for this month only until the end of October, when we have daylight savings come round, and then the show's going to be at 11 a.m. local New Zealand time. But for those of you in the rest of the world that didn't pass any legislation to extend daylight savings, it will be at the same time every time, Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in the United States. And I implore you, guys, to go to groundzero.radio. That's groundzero.radio. And sign up for the Aftermath Media. You get to have exclusive chats and things of that nature with the hosts and the owners of the network once a month, and you get lots of other exclusive content as well. And if you need help and you think I can help you, whether it's by starting a radio show or starting a YouTube channel, or you just want to do a little social media blogging thing, but you don't know what to do, and you need somebody to hold your little hand through it, somebody who knows what they're doing, who can tell you, point at this and click on that and download this and so on and so forth, and actually get you running so that you don't need them anymore, I implore you, if you are a Vinny Eastwood donor, contact me. There's a contact page on the VinnyEastwoodShow.com. That's Vinny with a Y, because it's the most important question. And Eastwood, like, go ahead, make my news. And go ahead, ladies and gentlemen, take advantage of the offer that is being put before you. I will help you, and it'll probably be more help than anybody else that you've ever talked to in as short a time as you could possibly imagine. All right? That's what I do, because I know what I'm talking about, and I'm very good at what I do. And I can't stand to see people who would be really good doing their own little radio streams, or making their own little movies, or writing their scripts, or something like that, or all these things that I can do, but talk themselves out of doing it because they don't know who to ask for help. You want to get a website started? I'll help you out. Right? It doesn't really matter in any way, shape, or form. It could be just as simple as a conversation. Go here, and watch the YouTube videos, or blah, blah, blah. Or if you actually need some, actual proper hand-holding and stuff like that, I'm available for that too. So, guys, thank you so much for listening to my big old rant today. I had potentially 3 guests lined up separately and what have you. They all cancelled at the last minute, and I've been working my little Vinny Eastwood bum off trying to get this show on the Rizzle today, guys, and I am absolutely grateful for you sticking in there and bearing with me right until the end of the broadcast. I'd like to particularly thank Teori Mason and Stephen Williams in the Facebook chat there. You guys have been absolutely beautiful today, and I love seeing WCB99 in the Twitch chat as well. He's always a great guy. And Nagushka was on the Facebook chat as well. And DK Spiracy, oh man, who's the best mod in the world? Who's the best mod in the world? It's DK Spiracy, and he's my mod. I'm like, yes! Oh my god, I've got a mod like DK Spiracy. He's so awesome. And Total Domination, always lovely to see you again here, bro. And Third Eye Music, he says he'll send me some money this week. Thank you, bro. I need, what do I need? I think I need about 300 New Zealand dollars. It's about 150 US dollars, just in order to make sure that I can actually pay the rent this week. Anybody wants to help me out with that, I will be so grateful. If you want something back for that, just contact me back. I'll give you my time. All right, I will. I'll have a conversation with you. You're feeling like down in the dumps or something like that nobody's listening to you, blah, 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 and you just want to talk to Vinny Eastwood for a little bit and get your problems at least listened to? Give me a call, man. Seriously. On the VinnyEastwoodShow.com, after you've donated, it says click here for your special rewards. And on there are my contact details, and you can actually reach out. Okay, whenever you need help, whenever you need somebody to talk to, seriously, just reach out. I don't want you guys to become a statistic. All right, you're New Zealanders, you're Americans, you're Canadians, you're English, you're Aussie, if you speak English and you live on this planet, and I'm capable of communicating with you, please don't hesitate. Contact Vinny Eastwood and get his help with whatever you frickin' think I can help you with, and I will be there for you, okay? I will do my damnedest. So, thank you guys. Thank you, Andrea. Thank you, Rhaenyra. Thank you, Third Eye Music and DK Spiracy and Total Domination, WCB99 Nagushka as well, for all of your attention and your time. The 2 spiritual currencies. And we will see you again sometime at the VinnyEastwoodShow.com.
Attention all Ground Zero radio fans, GroundZeroMerch.com is your one-stop shop for all things Ground Zero.
Oh, wow.
Show off your style with our exclusive collection of t-shirts and hoodies. They're not just comfortable, they're conversation starters. Need to keep hydrated during those long listen sessions? Get your hands on our durable water bottles. And now introducing our latest editions, a hand-picked selection of intriguing books that will keep your mind buzzing. GroundZeroMerch.com. Support Ground Zero and everything we do.
Gentlemen, I brought you here to discuss the Eastwood Problem. It may be necessary to penetrate the Vinny Eastwood Show. The Vinny Eastwood Show. Yeah, that's what I said.
Well, I've been working on a new Vinny scene. I think that might be the kind of penetration we need.
The Vinny Eastwood Show. Sundays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Live on Ground Zero Radio. Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, and hermaphrodites. My fellow slaves of the global plantation. The Vinny Eastwood Show is bad news. It's like the news, but so much worse. It's the lighter side of genocide. Just because we're being exterminated doesn't mean we can't enjoy it. Otherwise, what's the point of being killed? The Vinny Eastwood Show, where the only thing worse than living in a high-tech global police state run by child trafficking Satanists is Vinny's jokes. You see, this beastly, ghastly show has been exposing our scumbaggery, which we call necessary. Yeah, and as the World Economic Führer, I believe we should give him a little gift, with a little card that says Merry Christmas from Santa Claus.
Oh, yeah, we could send something through his windows. Yeah, I've been speaking with Jacinda Ardern that we need to eliminate the threat of Vinny Eastwood.
Why do you say Vinny Eastwood when it's clearly Vinny Eastwood? Absolutely, he's a major impediment to our planet. How are we going to get rid of him? We could poison his water supply. We've done that already. Okay, I'm running out of ideas here. I'm sorry, I've got a lot going on. Klaus Schwab Jr. telling people that I'm some evil overlord.
Oh, that's just not true. You see, we're lifetime actors.
Yes, we play the role, don't we? But I am still glad, even if I am not really the overlord, that I have penetrated all the cabinets of the world. Penetration is big for me.
Oh, it's big for me, too. I wouldn't be me if it weren't for the copious quantities of penetration.
Yeah, so thank God my mother's out of the way. Otherwise I never would have been king. Just keep to go on and on. You know, the stress of dealing with this Vinny Eastwood problem is probably what killed her. She was a very young 96, you see.